Mirabelle Jien is a Calgary-based musician, composer, and podcaster. She sings in English and Mandarin, which she displayed last year at the Jade Music Fest in Vancouver. She also plays the flute and an acoustic guitar in her solo performances. And in original songs like Imaginary People and Wildfire, she plays the flute and guitar off one another, and the effect can only be described as hypnotic. At 7:30 p.m. on November 7th, Mirabelle will return to the Jade Music Fest in Vancouver. It'll be for a free concert at Performance Works. The following night, Mirabelle will be at the Vogue Theatre for a ticketed performance, and this time she'll share the stage with Hong Kong pop star Sereni and Taiwanese singer-songwriter Eno Chen. Thanks for joining me, Mirabelle.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
This is your third Jade Music Fest. You also performed at the inaugural event in Asia. What's it been like for you to participate in a festival that supports musicians of Asian ancestry from Canada and other countries?
It's been super fun. I'm really glad that Jade asked me to participate in, well, so many now. But yeah, I've always kind of struggled to find community in terms of just in general, musically, to find other people doing similar things. I have a great classical network because I did that in school. But the singer-songwriter thing, just other creatives, and then singer-songwriters who are of Asian background. That's even harder. So I'm very glad Jade got us all together for this.
I didn't know there were so many until saw the Jade Music Festival. Um,
Yeah.
you're of Taiwanese ancestry, and I'm wondering how it felt to perform at the Jade Music Fest in Taiwan in April.
It was a really great experience. It felt sort of familiar, like I went back home or something, even though I I didn't grow up in Taiwan. I was born and raised in Canada. But I would visit every couple of years, every 2 years maybe during the summers, when we're off from school. And so I feel like maybe it's the Mandarin that makes it feel very familiar. And so that was actually a very comforting experience.
Interesting. And what would you like people to know about your podcast? It's called Making It.
Yeah, Making It is a podcast where I speak with other creatives about all things creativity, entrepreneurship, and mental health. So I've gotten some guests on there who are Grammy, Oscar, Emmy nominees and winners, and YouTubers, Twitch streamers, filmmakers. And I started that because I was just really craving conversations with other creatives. Again, I think I lacked that sort of community. And I was just really, really wanting to connect. I couldn't really relate to my close friends about all the struggles and the wins in this industry because my friends are accountants, engineers, and so on. So it's very hard to relate. And so I started that and yeah, it's been super awesome.
That's wonderful. When did you start singing in Mandarin?
I think when copying my parents when they were singing karaoke at dinner parties. That's probably where that started for real. And then in Chinese school, because my mom was the principal, so we sort of had to participate in Chinese school. We had singing competitions. They weren't actually competitive, really, I don't think, but it was more of a thing for the students to another way for students to practice Chinese. So I would practice for those singing contests in Chinese school.
And do you speak any other Asian languages?
Unfortunately, no.
Oh, okay. And you have a master's degree in music from the University of Toronto. And what did you learn in this program that you can apply to your singer-songwriter career?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot about collaboration and just working with a bunch of chamber ensembles, bigger wind ensembles, and then also TAing a songwriting course during that. So a lot about communication and working with others for sure.
And speaking of songwriting, I'll mention Imaginary People, a great track, just fantastic. How did you come to write this song, Mirabelle?
Yeah, Imaginary People is about dreams and goals and wanting all of that to come true. And so I was kind of struggling and really wanting, I was just really craving this sort of to make it in this industry, to make music full time and have that be my career. And that song came out of that frustration for me.
And I'm wondering musically too, because when I saw it, it was like a 10-minute. It went on, and I really enjoyed that because it was you'd play the guitar and you'd have the pedal and the
Oh
looping,
yeah.
and then the flute would come in, and it almost took me to another world. And I'm wondering, whether you think about that musically, how to achieve that, or whether it just kind of comes from
Yeah,
inside somewhere.
yeah, the flute version. So flute is
Yeah, the
flute.
flute version, which is the
Yeah.
combination of flute and
Yeah, and
loop.
looping. So it's improvised flute. And so each time I perform that, it's different. A little bit anyway. So the flute part for sure is improvised, and so that is just sort of what I'm feeling in the moment. And sometimes I will tap back into when I wrote the song, those feelings. And then that gets evoked through the flute. But otherwise, the looping is very structured, and that basically I have 6 tracks on my looper. So I have 6 opportunities to loop something, to record something, and then play on top of it. Um, and then I can control, turn it on, turn it off, and whatnot. So I typically have like a rhythm guitar, maybe a little guitar solo. So it'll be strumming, and then it'll be picking, and then a little percussive element to it, and then harmonies always. So then it's sort of like a choir of Mirabelles, but it's just me on stage.
It's pretty amazing when you think there's one person there and there's all this coming at you.
Super
Um,
fun.
I see over your shoulder, it looks like you have a wildfire, and you also have, another one of your great songs is Wildfire. Um, can you talk about Wildfire, where that came from, what the inspiration was?
Yeah, wildfire is my metaphor for cancer. I wrote that after watching a family friend have to suffer through that. It was all good for a while, and then it came really quickly and everything went downhill super fast, and unfortunately they're no longer with us. Me being, maybe I was in high school, I think, and I didn't really know how to cope with that. That was the first time I ever witnessed something like that happen. So I I locked myself in my room and I made music. That's kind of how it always goes. So Wildfire has become quite a staple in my repertoire, and now on my Twitch streams, it's always requested. And so that's the fire, the flame has become my sort of symbol from this community. It's also because wildfire gives way to new life. So there's a little bit of a silver lining in there.
It's also a powerful word in Alberta after what you've been through.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, another song, Overcoming. What's the story there, Mirabelle?
Yeah. Overcoming is a composition that I created live on one of my Twitch streams. It was a result of raising over $10,000 for Stop AAPI Hate. I organized this charity stream over a weekend. I got a bunch of music streamers together, and everybody's communities are so generous and donated to this cause. And just one of my big goals was to compose something live that sort of represented this whole situation.
And you mentioned that your mom was principal of the Chinese school. I, it makes me wonder how your family history has shaped you as an artist.
Yeah. So definitely my mom is a big influence. She's also a musician. So she plays the Chinese zither, the guzheng, and she was part of the National Taiwan Radio Orchestra before my parents immigrated to Canada. Now she teaches at the Mount Royal Conservatory, and has her own private studio too. And so I grew up around traditional Chinese music. I was crawling around under the instrument before I could play, before I had enough hand-eye coordination to learn. Um, so it's definitely,
So you can play the guzheng?
yes, yeah. I haven't
Wow.
touched it in a while because I've been playing other instruments, but that's an instrument that I got started on. My mom taught my brother and I that and piano.
How does it compare? Is it a plucked instrument, the guzheng, or is it?
Yeah, it is. So
And and I'm
if
wondering, like, if you're playing guitar or you're playing this, are there parallels that you can draw upon one for the other, or not really?
I suppose a little bit in terms that they're all stringed instruments, and when you pluck a guitar for the finger picking and guzheng, there might be a little bit similarities, but in generally actually no. The guzheng is long and horizontal, like it as if you're sitting at a desk when you're playing it.
Isn't
Um,
there something like 100 strings or something? I
this
thought.
one this one is 21.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, there are a lot of different types of zithers out there, different cultures. So yeah, it's similar but different.
And we're doing a series of articles for Vancouver called Beyond Chinese, and it's kind of breaking down stereotypes and kind of tackling reductionism, where people are reduced to one aspect of their identity. I'm wondering, for you, what it's been like being a performer of Asian ancestry, whether it's made any difference, positive or negative, um, in Calgary or anywhere else where you've performed.
Yeah. I don't think it's really been negative in not personally anyway. I haven't received any, discrimination from putting myself out there and performing and being Asian, um, which is great. But I have realized that sometimes I look around the room and I am the only Asian in the room, which is totally fine. Everybody respects each other, and regardless of race, we're all just here to make music and have human connections.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And you're also of Taiwanese ancestry, but for some in the Taiwanese community, the word Chinese
right.
is full of complications because it can be many
Yeah,
things. There's language, there's culture, there's ethnicity, there's nationality. I'm
there is.
wondering whether, you're here in Canada, whether what you feel when you hear this word Chinese, whether it has any resonance with you
Hmm.
in any way.
I personally don't mind. I'm fine with the fact that I'm kind of grouped into all sorts of, all Chinese. Um, Obviously, I love the fact that my parents are from Taiwan. Taiwan's a great place. They have great culture. The food is amazing. But I mean, if you go back far enough, we're all from the same place, and so I just, again, with the human connection thing, I think
And we're
just
all people. Yeah.
we're all people. Yeah.
Well, the other thing, Taiwan is a great country because, culturally, the film, the dance, the music, democracy,
Mm,
and but it's also, facing some challenges right now. And
for sure.
I'm within Taiwan. Can I ask where your family history is?
桃园.
Okay, and which area of the country is that?
So it's still, I guess, technically north. It's not as north as Taipei. You come
Hmm.
down a little bit, maybe like a 40-minute drive. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And as far as your career, Mirabelle, where do you see it going from here?
I hope to go on tour sometime. I really want to play more shows and see more of the people who are listening to my music online. Um, I've recently been arranging my works for string quartet, and I played a show in June. I put my own show on in June, and that was the first time that I played alongside string quartet with my original songs. I did that again just last week with the Kensington Sinfonia here in Calgary, and I'm hoping that I can do more of that, get that recorded, and maybe expand that into for orchestra and do that and sort of combine my two, my more classical background with this singer-songwriter side.
That's really exciting. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking time to speak to me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mirabelle Jien is a Calgary-based singer-songwriter, composer, and podcaster, and she will perform at the Jade Music Fest in Vancouver on November 7th and 8th. She'll also participate in a panel discussion at 10:30 a.m. on November 7th at Performance Works with other musicians of Asian ancestry.